I want to bring Alex Hilliard into this conversation. He is a personal injury attorney with Hilliard Martinez Gonzalez. And Alex, your firm is handling 93 suits launched on behalf of 200 plaintiffs. I thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When you look at the totality of what we are seeing here with the number of, there are enormous numbers of lawsuits, Alex. How long are we looking at to get settlements in this situation?
This lawsuit is much bigger and unprecedented in so many ways because every single day I get off the phone with a client that even if they sustain physical injuries, severe physical injuries, they are first telling me that their main injury, what they can't seem to heal from, is the psychological injuries, the mental trauma. And so right now, I would say that, we're at the bottom of the first inning. As each day goes by, there are legitimate people that have had their entire worlds thrown upside down by this tragedy. And if they're, from the injuries that are small as a sprained ankle, those may heal, but the healing that comes from the mental and emotional suffering that so many thousands of people are going through, I think that there will be by the end of this, over 10,000 plaintiffs within this entire litigation, because every single client is more heartbreaking of a story than the last one.
Yeah, that is an enormous number. 10,000. I was going to ask you if you had any idea of what we would be looking at. That's an enormous number. And obviously, Alex, when you're dealing with that many cases, I think the one question I come to is, does it make more sense to do one big class action, or is it because everything has to be done separately because different injuries, ultimately some people died, plays a factor, I think, in all of these. But these settlements are going to take a long time, and also getting answers on the criminal side of this. If there was any criminal negligence here, what are we talking as far as timelines, not just for families or victims here to get some kind of damages, but answers as to how this happened?
And that's a great question, and I get that question from clients, and our attorneys discuss that question. And I will tell you this quickly: there will not be something where in 2 years me and you are having this same discussion talking about the lengthiness and the waiting that is still going on. We are every single day pursuing the fastest and the largest recovery that we can, while still knowing that we're learning about how deep this goes every day. So when you ask the timeline, we're going to proceed on the most aggressive timeline that I think will ever have been tried in a case like this, with this many plaintiffs that will be in the case. I think that within a year, there will be a conclusion to at least the criminal side, and if not the civil side as well, because this is a case that has naturally and rightfully so drawn so much public outrage about how careless these corporations were with people's lives. And that's something where if we do end up going to trial on these cases, we're going to be in trial and have the entire world hear this story on a public scale. But we're not going to delay, and we're not going to let these defendants delay.
Yeah, and there is some expectation for people, especially when you get the big name brand corporations that are behind these festivals. There is some expectation that there's a professionalism or a safety guidelines. You go into these things believing that the organizers have a plan. What seems to have happened here, and the allegations are that the Scott Travis, pushed his fans. It was kind of historically documented through things like tweets. He liked the chaos. He liked fans to kind of come forward. There were really no rules going to one of these shows. And so he has said he will work with the victims families, with the investigations. I know a lot of that is a lawyer speaking, And so, how much resistance do you feel you're going to get in trying to get this thing solved or settled? And I know saying that, Alex, a lot of this is contingent on whether or not criminal charges are laid.
So I don't think that there will be resistance in regard to Travis Scott's willingness to change and want to do right and want to do better. I don't think that we're going to get resistance from these corporations, Live Nation,
Yeah.
the promoters of this event. Score More is another promoter of this event because this is a case where every single client, if I ask them, what do you want this case to result in? They want healing, but they also want, in some tragic cases where they had a family member die, they say, I want my family member, my son, my daughter, my brother's life to mean something, and that they are the last person that ever has to lose their lives when it was something as innocent as going to a concert where everybody assumes that safety is going to be, that you're not going to lose your life at a concert. That's never something that's a risk you assume. And so I think that right now, every single party in this case, my clients, the plaintiffs, as well as the corporations, we are calling on them to say that let's go hand in hand in changing how these concerts and festivals happen. Let's, if we're going to talk settlement and numbers for the restitution, fine. But let's also decide as a collective that change is going to happen, and that's got to be part of it, because the settlements aren't ever going to come unless there's a change. That is
Right.
what we are standing up for, and that is what honestly the clients never want this to ever for someone else to have to experience what they experience.
No question about it. And Travis Scott obviously is the main plaintiff who will be named on the suits, but Drake was also performing that night, and of course he's a very big name here, as you well know, ambassador to Toronto, the Raptors, and all the rest of it. Is he going to be named just because he was an entertainer at this particular venue in these suits as well?
So Travis Scott is a named defendant in the suit. Obviously, he has a history of inciting crowds. As the facts are revealed, we're learning more about how much each defendant was involved. Every single day, I get new information about that. Drake was on stage. He is named as a defendant in a lot of the lawsuits. But again, we are in the bottom of the first inning, and I would say it's definitely too early for me to tell the level of culpability that maybe Drake did or did not have. But the thing is that if there was knowledge or they did know or saw what was going on, the number one, I will say this: the organizers and promoters knew before this concert even happened that it was going to happen, and that's the criminal. That's the criminal scale that we're talking about. So that's the highest level of culpability that you can have, to have knowledge that people are going to get in a situation where they, if you don't control it as the organizers, they will get hurt and killed. And to not
Yeah.
adequately staff the concert, or the medical personnel who were completely overrun. I mean, trying to give CPR to 13 people as one medical EMT ran through the concert, and literally running between 13 people that did not have a pulse. So do I think Drake or Travis Scott knew the level of chaos and the level of hurt and killed people? The facts aren't there yet, but we will find out. And if they did know, we will hold them responsible. This is no finger pointing game, as Travis Scott's lawyer is saying. This is a game of people were killed. Somebody needs to be held accountable, and we will hold those people responsible. And at the end of the day, my response to Travis Scott's lawyer's comment of, this is a game of finger pointing, is that it's not a game, because that word is offensive to my clients, to the parents of my clients who lost their children. And so when you have a microphone and there's a crowd of 50,000 people, 55,000 in this case, that's when you have to understand that you have the ability, you have a higher duty than just saying, well, I'm the person singing. I'm not the person in charge of crowd control or the engineer that set everything up, but you do have the microphone and the crowd is in your control. You can either
Yeah.
let them go crazy or you can stop the show. And so that is the ultimate power. Do I think that things could have been prevented by the organizers, promoters, Live Nation, and Score 1000% yes. It was an in the moment type situation for Travis Scott and Drake to make. I don't know. It appears as of right now they didn't make the right one because it appears based on the evidence that it would have been impossible that they did not know that this was a crowd that was killing people. The videos that we have obtained are that they bring a level of feeling to you that when you watch them, that is horrifying. And
Yeah.
any artist seeing that, you have to shut down the show.
Yeah. And certainly guys like Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters have stopped their shows in the past when they saw that kind of thing happen, but it has also happened at other shows where it did not. Alex, I very much appreciate your time on this. I will hope to keep you on the Rolodex and have you back on again, because no question about it, this thing's not going away anytime soon, and certainly I predict that more cases will be added. So I appreciate you taking the time for us.
It was an honor. And as this case unfolds, I would love to come back and talk more about it. Thank you.
Alex Hilliard joining us here. He is with Hilliard Martinez Gonzalez, representing now 200 plaintiffs in 93 suits